We're fired up and we're welcoming you this week to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles. I'm the Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I am Samantha, the Chief Content Officer of not giving a damn. Actually, that's not really true. I do
give a damn.
I do give a damn, and I care deeply also about inaugural fashions. For what does one wear to the christening of the kleptocracy?
May I make a comment about Heggers, as I'm now going to call him? If Pete Hegseth was in Britain, he would already be named Heggers by now. And I thought he looked at his confirmation hearings as if he had been dressed by American Doll. He had socks on with a flag. He was in red, white and blue. He had a pocket chief sticking out of his pocket, and he looked like a souvenir. He literally looked like an American souvenir. He looked like a Christmas ornament.
You know
in fact,
what?
we should actually create some for this time next year.
I'm probably the only person in America who bought the American Boy doll for my son.
Well, and now we have a live American Boy doll.
The hair is the same. My son never even, I was like, it's Todd, it's for you. And he has his own drum kit. And my son was like, I don't understand you.
He has his own drum kit.
Yep.
And he's now got his own 3 million workforce, and he's got a, whatever it is, $850 billion budget, which I'm sure he'll enjoy spending. Yeah. Anyway, I am digressing because we are going to be discussing the people and the stories that everyone is consumed by, which is what we try and do in this podcast. And of course, this week we are discussing the inauguration, also known as the most awkwardly programmed MLK Day. It's coming up this Monday, so we want to know who's showing up, who's swearing as Trump gets sworn in, and will Elon be bringing the creepy new Tesla bot as his date? He's going to be up there on the podium with Mark Zuckerberg and with Jeff Bezos,
My God,
all the boys. All the boys.
That lineup, Joanna, not a moist vagina in all of D.C. Dry panties.
I think that may not be true because I'm pretty sure Lauren Sanchez will be up there with him. And my only obsession is what will Lauren wear to the inauguration? And will she outdress Melania and Ivanka and Tiffany?
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Okay. Yep.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So in the download, we're going to be talking with Daily Beast executive editor Hugh Dougherty, who is back to talk about Tulsi Gabbard and her strange upbringing. And of course, she is Trump's controversial pick for Director of National Intelligence. And we're going to be joined by Juliegrace Brufke, our new hire from Axios, who is a Capitol Hill hustler, a permanent resident in the room where it happens. And she's deeply embedded in Trumpistan. She was in the room for Pete Hegseth's tense Senate confirmation hearings, which I thought lent a little bit to Brett Kavanaugh's. We can discuss that. And we're going to break down actually what it was like. And does this give us the MAGA pathway for what the next 4 years are going to be like? It's really, this week's episode is going to be a crash course at Trump University just in time for the new administration. And you'll be guaranteed to be smarter by the end of this episode, not just because you'll know more about these White House characters, but also because you'll be like, these people are in charge of the most influential government in the world.
Really? Them. Yes. As you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, my body position says, I'm just watching the Hindenburg slowly make its way down to the earth. So I'm just going to sit back in my red, white, and blue. And
you're looking very patriotic. Between the two of us, we're demonstrating a different kind of patriotism. You've got your red glasses on. I've got my red sweater on.
The Daily Beast podcast brought to you by American Girl dolls.
We have a lot to discuss, but we should also say that we are still very much thinking about people in LA who are going through these awful fires, which seem to have picked up in the last couple of days after dying down.
Yes, it's so scary. I can't even, it's actually, of course, we both know a lot of people who are in Los Angeles with varying degrees of, packed and ready to evacuate, to people whose homes have fully burned down. I mean, it runs a gamut. It's such a such a massive, and it's unfathomable to me at this point. And I can't believe the number of people who are willingly spreading disinformation about it. And
well, it's heartbreaking. I mean, I have a friend who was evacuated, got an Airbnb. By the time he got to his Airbnb, the price had been upped on the Airbnb, and his neighbour called to say, by the way, there are looters in your house. So he had to drive back to his house, whereupon he discovered looters had gone through the place, ransacked it, taken his wife's jewellery, their laptops, all their computing equipment. And so sort of trauma upon trauma, and just the paperwork of dealing with insurers for that stuff. Yeah. Absolutely a nightmare.
Yeah, my husband's manager has lost his whole home. You can't even reach anyone at an insurance company. It's just months and months and months and years of recovery. And it really, I mean, it's an ongoing story. So it's difficult to even talk about. It's weird to even talk about anything in the past tense when winds are whipping up today. So anyway, we're just thinking about it constantly and thinking about ways to help. So I know on my Substack, I'm about to list out some ways that people can individually reach out to. I really love those kind of like direct action charitable organizations in particular. So anyway.
Yep. On the Beast, we have some resources for people and also to reach out. I've been packing up lightly worn sweaters and sending them to people because it's still cold in the evenings there. And people have got literally no clothes, although I know big centres have been set up and companies are being generous, helping people, but it feels good to be able to actually help people directly.
Yeah. Where to even begin? I don't know. Meantime, you are going to D.C. this week. You are going to D.C. this
I'm going
weekend.
to D.C. for the parties. But the good news is that when I get there, I will be bright-eyed because you and I are drinking this matcha from a cleanse that we've agreed to go on together. I've never done a cleanse in my life, and I'm very nervous I won't be able to stick to it.
I've never done a cleanse in my life, and I've already probably broken the cleanse. I brought an apple today. I don't think my apple is permitted, but I'm just not sure I can do it. I've never done one before, but I'm happy to go on this journey. It's a learning journey.
Well, and you told me you'd started the day with a big cheesy omelette. Well, I added the cheese, but you said you'd had a big omelette.
You know what? You were correct to assume that it was a cheesy omelette, but it was goat cheese, which is kind of a different.
Yeah, goat's cheese isn't really cheese.
It's not really cheese.
But it's the cleanse is by Chroma, and I just want to, first of all, I met the founder of it, who started it at one of my women's power retreats.
Power spa retreat.
And she was very compelling about it because she started the company, as so many women do, as a last resort because she had a child that had real allergy issues with foods and she wanted nourishing foods for them. So she started making all these broths and things. And then her friends were like, oh, I love this. Will you make it for me? Long story short, it's turned into a company. And she has lost her home this week, living in LA, entirely burnt down. So here we are, nevertheless, sitting with her packets of Chroma, and there's fuel, there's afternoon, there's lunch, there's Boost.
Packets, pouches, whippers.
I know, what is that? I haven't opened that. I got one of those, and I don't understand what it is.
It's a little blend. It's like a little hand blender it's a battery-powered. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, that's.
Oh, my God. It's, wow, it's really powerful. I just sprayed matcha all around the room. But it's great. It's like a frother.
I think it's got a very sincere, is this the message of I didn't find one of those bags. It's possible I haven't unpacked it properly.
You're very good at unboxing things if you didn't find your special pouch.
So I want us to say out loud together.
Okay.
We commit to the journey.
The
pursuit of health and wellness can transform our lives together.
Forever. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, next week we're going to see if we've lost weight, if we feel fabulous, if we're boosted, our energy.
I feel fabulous. I don't care about the weight part. I just like to feel clear. I like to feel bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I love myself. I love myself when I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
And no brain fog.
No.
I'm very interested to try extra supplements because I'm not a big believer in supplements. I feel like if you have a good diet, you're just being sold to, and it makes me nervous that actually the supplement industry is completely unregulated.
Completely unregulated. I really don't take any. If I ever feel like I should take a supplement, I just I peel an orange and then I eat it.
Oh, that's very good. As long as the orange hasn't been sitting around for 12 days in the supermarket under very bright light.
I mean, it's a Terry's chocolate orange. It's not a real orange, Joanna.
Match is going down the wrong way. That's my kind of fruit, Terry's chocolate orange. Excellent. I think they're doing a Terry's chocolate lemon as well, aren't they?
What?
Terry's has been slow to understand what they're sitting on with that chocolate orange, because when you hit it on the table and it comes out like that, it's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful
But
blossom.
we are, interesting segue, interviewing Don Lemon later.
We are. Oh my goodness. I'm going to ask him if when he cries, he calls his tears lemon drops.
Interesting. And I'm going to ask him if he's had a conversation with Terry's about doing a chocolate lemon.
Oh my God.
Because his followers are called the Lemonheads, unlike the Cheeseheads
Lemonheads.
in
Okay.
Wisconsin.
I'm excited.
I once wore one of those cheesehead things. Very strange.
So did I.
Oh, you did? You've worn a cheesehead?
I've worn a cheesehead.
I think we should do it on the pod. We should do it on the pod. We should wear one. I've forgotten where we are now, except that we are going to have our Beast of the Week, Don Lemon, who's going to be in DC. So we're going to talk to him about the inauguration, what he thinks about things, the fact that Michelle isn't going, what's all that about. And, of course, he was known for being a CNN anchor for a long time, and he's now got his own show on YouTube.
Yes.
Live at 5 and Hot Topics at 10.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to him.
All right, but up first is our doughty Scottish editor, Hugh Dougherty, and Juliegrace Brufke, our new hire in Washington, to talk us through Pete Hegseth's confirmation.
Great.
And another story that we have at The Beast, which is actually pretty exciting, we have been working on for some time, and we are going to tease it here on the podcast.
This is spicy.
It's very spicy. It's very spicy, and it unfortunately sheds some doubt on one of Trump's people.
What? Don't you dare tell me that you have doubts about his stellar cast of characters.
It's about Tulsi Gabbard.
No.
We have so much more to get into. Let's take a quick break, make some money for this podcast, and when we come back, we'll be joined in the download by Hugh Dougherty, our doughty Scottish executive editor at the Daily Beast, and Juliegrace Brufke, two DC experts. Welcome back. We are joined now by the Daily Beast executive editor, Hugh Dougherty, to get the download on a fascinating story about Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence, who was a former US representative for Hawaii and ran for president as a Democrat in 2020 and then left her party. And by Daily Beast Capitol Hill reporter Juliegrace Brufke for her insider download on the confirmation hearing of Heggers, aka Pete Hegseth, a military veteran and former Fox News host, of course he was, accused of sexual assault, of course he was, the perfect portfolio for a Trump defense secretary appointee. Hugh, Juliegrace, we've an embarrassment of things to discuss. Juliegrace, can you tell us what's happening in the background on the Hill there where you are right now? And is Pete Hegseth going to get confirmed as defense secretary?
So Republican leadership's feeling really good about his odds right now. They feel like he did well in that hearing. Democrats have still been rallying against him. And there's a couple of outliers that haven't said they're going to support him yet. So I feel like there's some moderates or some potentially retiring members that might just kind of not care what leadership has to say. That could be a problem for him. But right now, pretty much everyone I talked to said that things are kind of looking good. They're gearing up probably a markup on everything on Monday, and then probably potentially a confirmation vote Monday or Tuesday. So it's going to be interesting, but last I talked to leadership sources, things were the wind was in his sails to get there. So,
wow. Is he facing any actual roadblocks now, or just a kind of a question mark from those retiring folks?
It's kind of a question mark from the moderates. I mean, we haven't heard from like Susan Collins on where she stands on this, or Lisa Murkowski would be another one to watch, or John Curtis, the new Utah senator, is taken over from Mitt Romney, who had some reservations there. But I think Joni Ernst getting on board yesterday, who probably was most vocal about reservations initially there, is a big indicator that Trump rolled his kind of pressured a lot of these people to kind of rally behind him, even some of the people that had reservations there. So it's kind of headed in his direction, and they dumped a ton of money to kind of peer pressure her into getting on board with him. So I think she's kind of a good bellwether to watch on where some of the other moderates will lie on that.
When you say they dumped money, what does that mean?
So there was a ton of money spent in Iowa kind of pressuring her, especially with threats for primaries for her in her next election. So kind of threats from people in Trump world to that they potentially derail her moving forward. So I think that was definitely kind of a factor in there. But she said she's been satisfied with his meetings, and her line of questioning yesterday, she was, I mean, softer than some anticipated there, but ultimately kind of came out and said yesterday that she's on board. So,
and of course, she's got a daughter serving in the military. She served in the military herself. She's the victim of a sexual assault. So she was a sort of holdout, but she spent time with him on her own, I think, before the holidays. So they've had clearly time together, and she's obviously been convinced, and especially under the threat of being primaried, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way to know if she organically changed her mind or is just kind of acquiescing to the enormous amount of pressure and threats.
Yeah. I think this is welcome to Trump 2.0, smash mouth politics.
Smash mouth politics.
The MAGA caucus, or the MAGA supporters, smashed their way through that hearing. After the hearing, they said it was a triumph. They hailed Hegseth as a hero. And what did he do? Well, he was incredibly aggressive to the Democrats. He spoke the language of MAGA. He spoke about being saved by God. He didn't express shame or regret. And that's the theme of the next 4 years. That's how Trump wants people to, in his view, win. And we're going to see, I think, for the next few days, as Juliegrace is going to be covering a lot of confirmation hearings. And I doubt that we will see any that are as nakedly confrontational as Pete Hegseth of the Democrats, but it's the theme. Don't concede, don't give ground, be aggressive. And the feeling in MAGA land after that performance was that's what we want to see. This is the
Trump school of politics. Juliegrace, what is the feeling like on the Hill? Are people energized?
I mean, Democrats are kind of trying to figure out their next moves, and all of them that I talked to Tim Kaine a little bit after the hearing yesterday, and they're like, I feel like a lot of them are really upset they didn't get to see that FBI report, and that's going to be a big issue. So they're kind of just trying to rally the troops, and I doubt that he gets any Democrat support, but possibly John Fetterman. But I mean, it was kind of interesting to watch Tim Kaine of all people in that, because he's usually so unfiery to be kind of like the most intense in his line of questioning there, bringing up the extramarital affairs and really kind of taking aim at him. And a lot of Republican senators are kind of like flipping on that and really taking aim at some of the line of how Democrats handled the questioning there.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
It was a false claim then and a false claim now.
If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
So I think that's going to be a big fundraising tool for them on how they're going to go after Democrats. And it's, I mean, it was kind of interesting to watch Mark Wayne Mullen yesterday, right after Tim Kaine, who was like, lawmakers show up drunk at work all the time, so this shouldn't be an issue.
Hey, who among us? I'm drunk right now. I'm doing a podcast.
Well, you can be drunk on matcha, I think.
I am drunk on matcha. It's actually so funny to me, and I don't know if people feel this way, but it's like watching, I think, Marco Rubio is likely going to pretty much sail through. And having covered this world for as long as I have, it's so bizarre to me to think of Marco Rubio as the statesman who sails through, just like the voice of reason. Just by comparison, a literal genius.
So Juliegrace, what about the Republicans? I mean, are they euphoric? Is this a moment of high energy for them?
I mean, I think for MAGA world, they're very excited about some of these incoming nominees. And I mean, I think one thing to note just on getting him through, I think Matt Gaetz dropping out early kind of paved a path where there's only so many nominees that you can take out, which I think also helps Hegseth's case. But I mean, I think there's a lot of energy. I mean, especially with inauguration coming up, I feel like especially the really close Trump allies are really ramped up. I mean, in comparison to like Mattis as defense secretary last time around, they're getting a cabinet as a whole that's just much more in line with kind of that Trump world. So it's going to be more politicized.
Right. It feels much more in line with central casting, and Pete Hegseth is who you would pick to play defense secretary in a movie about the end of the world.
Great. And on that note, no, I mean, is the Hegseth, he's not the most contentious nominee at this point. There's which is a remarkable statement.
Which brings us on to why Hugh is here this morning. We're going to discuss La Gabbard, which is my name for her. I don't know why it's that, but it's more fun than Gabbard. Gabbard actually sounds a bit like a Yorkshire name. Gabbard.
Yeah, it's a bit stodgy.
It sounds like one of those places that you might store coal or logs. Put it in the Gabbard. Don't you think at the bottom of the garden?
Or like a kind of a claggy pudding.
Yes, maybe let's have some Gabbard with that.
Well, on the subject of claggy pudding, Tulsi Gabbard may be the candidate that's really difficult to digest for the Republicans. And there's lots of reasons for that. And one thing I want to highlight is that the Daily Beast has been investigating a very specific part of her background that has very much flown under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be dropping a story on her upbringing in a group called the Signs of Identity Foundation.
The Signs of Identity
Foundation. She, Tulsi, as people probably know, was brought up in Hawaii, but she was actually born in Samoa, and she was born to a couple who were very much part of the Hare Krishna movement, as many boomers were in the 70s. And then they became part of a group called the Signs of Identity Foundation. And its leader, Chris Butler, who goes by the name Jagged Guru to his followers.
Well, I would do if I was called Chris Butler. I'd much rather be called Jagged Guru, wouldn't you?
Would.
Yes.
Yes.
Chris Butler.
If you're choosing your guru name. But he is a figure who really lives as a recluse in Hawaii, but is incredibly controversial and has some incredibly controversial things to say. And we've obtained a recording of him saying some of those things about gay rights, and he was very deeply opposed to any rights for same-sex couples, and said it in very explicit and offensive terms. And we'll be dropping that story on the Daily Beast website.
Are we able to play some of the tape now?
We are.
So then we're stuck in this position where we're faced with having to follow God within our heart, or having to follow the law. And this is what's so sad, that they create this law. But is this not the reason why they're creating that law? Because they're not able to get people to be converted to their religion of materialism, to f***ism, voluntarily, convincing them that it's right, that it's clean, that it's spiritual, or whatever the hell they think it is, that it's normal, because they have no logic in their explanations that it's somehow normal to shove their fists up each other's anuses, and thereby are unable to convince me that it's normal, or that it's clean, or that it's not sinful, that they lick each other's anuses, or that a man is having sex with a man, or a woman with a woman. They must convert us by force.
So, is this the first time we're hearing about this?
Juliegrace will be able to talk to some of this doubts about exactly what went on in Tulsi Gabbard's childhood, her upbringing, and why she got into politics. It's the first time we're hearing directly from somebody that we know she has referred to as her spiritual guide. And I think many Democrats and even some Republicans are going to be interested to know exactly, is she still part of this group? Something that she has not directly engaged with as a question. And how important is Chris Butler or Jagged Guru to her? So there's going to be a lot to talk about after we've released this story.
Oh my God. What? Wow. This is...
And I'll just give you a tiny preview of some of the things we've been learning about Chris Butler. One is
I think you mean Jagged Guru.
Jagged Guru.
Yeah.
One is that he is deeply, deeply concerned about not coming into contact with infectious diseases, and that he would make people quarantine for up to 2 weeks. Some former followers have told us before they could come into contact with them.
Just like Putin.
Just like Putin. And also he may then be a fan of RFK Jr. Quack health theories.
These are all good questions, and we might learn at a confirmation hearing. We might learn from Tulsi. We might even learn from RFK Jr. if he's asked about it.
Juliegrace, what is the feeling about Tulsi Gabbard at the moment? We know that she does seem to be the most controversial pick at the moment, post Matt Gaetz.
I mean, I think she's going to have the toughest climb out of any of, I mean, maybe RFK Jr. He's got some issues too, but I think he probably gets some Dem support. But I mean, there's definitely, I mean, foreign surveillance is a big issue, especially with moderate and defense hawks that are going to be an issue for her. And her comments on Assad saying he wasn't the enemy back in the day is a huge thing that people are worried about. So I think she hasn't really satisfied a lot of their questions. And I've talked to senators after they've come out of these meetings where they've kind of left with more questions, where they're not totally getting what they want out of her on these one-on-one meetings. So I think there's definitely a lot of pressure for them to rally around her, but I think there's still some finessing that Trump world's probably going to have to do to get her over the finish line.
So there's no sense that Republicans are fully embracing her. It's not like they're not putting a full court press on her behalf.
I mean, I think there's definitely a press happening, and there's a lot of individual meetings going one-on-one. But I think given the national security aspects of it, and I mean, Hegseth's kind of firebrandy and Trumpy, but I think there are some people that have some real concerns given the nature of the job that could make it tougher for her.
And I think what we're going to see play out in the next few days is Republicans seeing how pressured can they be by MAGA. If you can draw a line between MAGA and Republicans, MAGA has had this real boost from Pete Hegseth. Are they going to use that to push Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. over the line if there is a problem? Or are they not going to? And we don't know. We really don't have any sense yet of quite how invested they are. And maybe we will after the inauguration.
And Juliegrace, I'd be interested in your point of view on this. We are so used to seeing men get angry in those seas. Brett Kavanaugh is the sort of perfect example. It's very different watching a woman get angry. It sort of triggers a different response, I think, in a crowd. Do you think she will perform well at the Senate hearing?
Probably, I think she's articulate. She helped play Kamala when prepping debate prep for Trump. So, I mean, I think she kind of knows how to work a room. She's been in Congress. She understands how these things work. And I feel like she's kind of just, her general personality is pretty even keeled. So I don't think it's going to be wildly combative. But it's going to be interesting. She's going to get pressed on some pretty hard issues. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how she navigates it there. But I don't see her getting in shouting matches with members. I mean, I've seen crazier things happen, but I think just from her general MO,
You mentioned Assad earlier and her defense of Syria, and of course she visited Syria too. How much of a stain is that on her history for this job?
I mean, I think it's one of the biggest issues for people that are kind of critical and trying to think things over and skeptical of her right now. And I think that's probably going to be one of the main themes that she's going to get pressed on in that hearing. So yeah, I think that's going to be a major factor.
And I think the other thing that people are going to be pressing her on, especially from the Democratic side, is this willingness to bend intelligence to Trump, which is something that the Democrats believe is going to be the appeal to Trump of officials in that capacity. And I think there's going to be some pretty tough questions on that. And what Tulsi Gabbard's challenge is going to be convincing people who are skeptical about her as Republicans that she can answer Democrats' questions. The Republicans might well be waiting to see how she performs on TV. And as we know, there's only one viewer really in all this world, and it's Trump.
Well, I hope it is a very contentious hearing because I think she is the exact wrong person to take on this role. And you know, I welcome I welcome tough questions from anyone to any of these nominees, as tough as it gets.
Well, Sam, you know where to come for the drama. We will be reporting on it. Juliegrace will be there witnessing it.
Yes.
And I don't think there's any better place to find the drama than the Daily Beast.
Chris Butler should have been the name of my American Boy doll. No wonder he changed his name.
Jagged Guru.
That's perfect. Jagged Guru.
Yeah, the good news is she has a spiritual advisor. The bad news is it's Jagged Guru.
Oh, boy.
Okay, we are moving on. But before we do, we're taking a short break. Juliegrace, thank you so much. That was excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
We're back and we're thrilled to be joined by this week's Beast of the Week, Don Lemon, one of the most iconic names in the news world, not just because it sounds like a cartoon villain. Known for his tenure as CNN anchor from 2014 to 2023, including his own primetime show, Don Lemon Tonight, Lemon cemented himself as a bold voice in news, and whether he's fearlessly critiquing Donald Trump or expressing unfiltered thoughts live on air, he's never one to back down. And now he has not one, but 2 shows on YouTube, Hot Topics at 10 and Live at 5. Don Lemon, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi, can you hear us?
I was just on my stream on my channel doing the breaking news on Gaza. Did you guys see that?
I did see that. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about you, Don. We're going to talk about what you think about what's happening in DC. We're going to talk about you, what you're doing, how indie media works, and should Michelle go, all the themes that you've been talking about.
Absolutely.
We're interested in what you feel the energy is in DC, what you're thinking about the hearings, and what looks like an enormous amount of fun that you're having gone off on your own as a media entrepreneur.
Yeah, Sam, you know about that, don't you? They don't like us big mouth, sort of middle or left-leaning people. They just get rid of us.
They just get rid of us. They just sweep us away. It's very easy for them.
They find ways to get rid of us for little things for being a big mouth or saying something.
Oh, yes.
Whatever. You know the score.
I do. It's relaxing for them to clear the slate.
Don Lemon, the highly recognized former CNN anchor and leader of the Lemonheads. Don, I wish I had a big lemon on my head to welcome you to the Daily Beast podcast.
Yes, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Hi, Sam. Hi, Joanna. I've been called a lot of things, but never a beast and a beast of the week. I kind of like it.
Very nice. You need a T-shirt.
You need a T-shirt.
Oh,
we'll send you a T-shirt.
We will send you a T-shirt. Are you in DC as we speak?
I'm in DC as we speak. I got here overnight.
Oh, wow.
I'm doing a couple of things. I'm just kind of here monitoring the situation, but nothing here is normal. I'm kind of trying to ignore that. And I'm here speaking to, quite frankly, the National Press Club about independent media.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, does that mean, are you going to any of the inaugural balls or the inaugural wakes that are on the slate?
Sam.
Yeah.
Sam.
No.
But don't.
I will go and be your date if you go, Sam.
I would go to a wake, but that's it. That's my limit. And I would dress in a black shroud. Really. Actually, I will not do that. And I imagine you're going to get out there as fast as you possibly can.
Well, you could have Michelle Obama's seat because she's not going. What do we think about that?
I respect her for doing that. I really do. I think that we should stop putting on airs. I think we should stop this sort of phony civility that folks think that you have to give. Yeah, I think that you should. There's protocol. You have to be civil with people, but it doesn't mean that you have to smile on their face. It doesn't mean that you have to do things that they wouldn't give them courtesies that they would not give to you.
I completely agree with this.
Yeah. And let me just say this. I like to follow the lead of women because I think women are always, they're the most evolved of the sexes, but especially Black women lately have been really keeping our democracy intact and voting in the right direction. So Michelle Obama, as a Black woman, I will follow her lead. And, she told us when they go low, we go high. We did that. Although I think when they go low, we should go to the crust of the earth right now. But I'll follow her lead.
You don't think that she should be there to support Barack? Because surely he's feeling like that. I mean, Trump went after him over the whole birther incident. I mean, in many ways, Barack has every reason to feel even more strongly than Michelle does. I would have thought that the symbolism of the two of them as a couple, reminding us of how they were in the White House, is stronger than absence.
I don't know that symbolism means anything anymore. I actually think all of those norms and niceties are just blown out the window. I think that Michelle Obama has endured so much. Why should she be subjected to this? I totally agree with you, Don. I just totally agree with you.
Look, we're assuming, and let's keep this in mind, we're assuming that's the reason why, and I think that the obvious reason is usually the reason that she's not going. But yeah, I mean, why would she subject herself to that? Why would she? Let's go back to the speech.
Because she's not going for herself. She's going on behalf of all the people that voted for the Democratic Party.
To that point, Joanna, I think there are many people in this country who feel that the Democrats and folks, not just Democrats, but people who believe in democracy, who believe in this country, they are looking for an example to be set. And especially from Democrats who are trying to, at this point, hold our democracy intact. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. And the only party I believe now, and I don't think they're doing such a great job of it, the only party that's trying to keep our democracy intact are Democrats. And I think people want Democrats or people who are not part of the MAGA movement to be stronger about what is important, what is moral, what is right, what is democratic, by pretending that, by normalizing this behavior. That's what got us here in the first place. And I think an example needs to be set by rational, thinking, patriotic Americans that we will not normalize and put up with this behavior just for the sake of a performative act. We know. I just that's.
Sometimes you just have to draw a line. Sometimes you have to draw a line.
But I'm also independent. I agree with you to some point, Dawn, but then why is President Obama going?
Well, he's a president. I think it's fine for him to go.
She was first lady. The two of them did it together.
I just think it's fine for her to make her own choice. I mean, my God, how badly do you think that Kamala wants to skip that inauguration? What's the over-under on her just like happening to get norovirus Monday morning? I'd be licking subway poles.
So
look at Karen Pence. Karen Pence is a Republican. Her husband was vice president of the United States. Look at her, she decided, I'm going to go, I'm going to sit here, but I'm not going to make niceties. The difference between Karen Pence and Michelle Obama is that Michelle Obama would have had, according to the seating, she would have had to sit next to the man that they had been calling a fascist and who has been saying the most vile things about her and her husband for decades. And remember, as I was alluded to earlier, during the Democratic speech, she said that Donald Trump could not stand two educated Black people who were smart and who could rise to the level to be able to sit in the White House and lead the country. And I think we have to stand by our principles and our morals. And I would not want to sit next to that person if I were the first lady of the United States. Now, that's different for her husband. The rules are not the same. She doesn't have to. People did not elect Michelle Obama. They elected Barack Obama to be president. So I think that she can make her own decision.
Let's face it, she's not going to the inauguration, but they definitely found a bunch of people to take her seat. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, they're all going to be sitting behind him with those elected officials all around. I mean, they quite literally bought the best seats in the House. I mean.
And who's the guy that sings the America song?
I'm proud to be an American. That song, I forgot his name.
It's Greenwood.
Lee Greenwood. I mean, it's going to be very, very cold, and you have to listen to Lee Greenwood. That means that I won't be up on that podium.
You're in DC right now.
Are you going?
Oh,
I'm going to the parties. I actually enjoy talking to people on both sides. I need to understand it more, and I want to be down there.
Okay, well, I think you're going to come back with a lot of stories, and I want to hear every single one of them, but I wouldn't wish those parties on my worst enemy. Well, maybe I would. Maybe I would wish them on my worst enemy.
I'm going to a party that's hosted by X, which I'm very excited about. I'm hoping for a sighting of Elon, at least, with his child balanced on his shoulder.
Oh, my God. Here's a question for you, Don. Yeah, really.
I have a great relationship with that. But anyways.
Well, when you left CNN, you announced you were doing a show on Twitter. It was going to launch with an interview with him. And then he fired you, basically, even before the interview went out. What was that whole drama like, Don?
There was drama, but he didn't fire me. We had a content agreement, a distribution agreement. So it didn't work for him. My entire show was independent of the folks at X.
Okay.
They were just providing a platform for me to be able to do the show and just exclusive content just for maybe, I think, 24 or 48 hours. So what didn't fire me. But I mean, that makes a great headline.
Right.
But look, I am always appreciative of every experience, and I wish it had turned out a different way, but it didn't. And so here we are. And I can't say a lot because I'm in litigation with him, active litigation, as you know. You know, it wasn't the most pleasant experience thing that I had ever experienced.
Do you think that he gets the blue pass, the big all access pass at the White House? How do you think that plays out?
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Of course he does. I mean, there's been a report recently that he's looking for office space in or near the White House, and that they're going to set up an office.
I thought he got a desk in the Eisenhower building.
Yeah, and I said in or near the White House. So they've found the Eisenhower building, which is adjacent to the White House. Perhaps that's where he's going to be. I doubt that it's going to be obviously in the Oval, not the West Wing, excuse me, but in or near the White House. So Eisenhower building, he will be reportedly.
How have you decided to cover Trump for the first 100 days? And how have you decided to feed yourself so that you can survive the first 100 days? Like, what type of exercise are you doing? Are you treating this like an Olympic event? Because I'm really girding my loins here.
Well, Sam, the whole thing, the reason I'm here is to tout independent media and to give people insight at the press club. And this is part of the freedom that I had. I don't have to treat this as normal. I think I think folks are kind of tired of the whole, putting on an act, Joanna, and they appreciate that Michelle Obama is not doing it.
Yeah.
They're tired of, performative patriotism, performative civility. And so I am treating this as for what it is. Look, we have to take it seriously because the man is the leader of the free world. He was elected. But today, just in covering some of the nominees that I did today and yesterday, these aren't normal times. These aren't normal appointees or normal nominees. And I think people are tired of the sort of the folks normalizing this behavior just because someone has been elected to the presidency or an elected office. It does not mean that it is a good thing. Some things are objectively bad. And we've gone through periods in history where we have seen really bad leaders who have had a lot of influence, who have been elected. And so I don't have to sit there, which I love, and appease certain groups and pretend like everything is equal. I hate false equivalency.
Mm-hmm. It's such an interesting path to get there because when you have a really big job and there are a lot of voices in the room and there are a lot of producers and executives and a lot of voices in your ear, to feel unconstrained is really a gift. Is that what you're conveying in your work now? I feel that.
It's a gift, but also you're right, 100%. But it's also, how do I say this? It's like a detox that has to happen. It takes a while.
Yes.
Because every time I, did my show, I go back sometimes and I look at the beginning of the Don Lemon Show on YouTube and Spotify and iHeart and wherever, on all streaming platforms. And, sort of the things that I did in the beginning were sort of very similar to what I did in traditional media, right? Well, if I say something about this side, I got to say something about that side. I got to do this. And that's not what this is.
Yeah.
I like the informality of what you're doing too. Yeah. I love the fact you've got the television on in the background. You've got the script in your hand. It feels like we see you in your home normally. You've got your photos on the fireplace. And it feels like we've actually got you. And Don, I was just looking through social media. It looks like you've actually got more viewers now than you had at CNN.
I do. That's what I wanted to say, Sam, when you said you've had the big job. I feel like I have the big job now. And
you
I just
do,
didn't know
yeah.
about it. Yeah, look, had I known, I am very fortunate. I'm very lucky that I did have the big job, as you say, Sam, to qualify for enough time that I am privileged enough that I don't have to go and look for another contract somewhere, right?
It's
that I
huge.
can afford to be able to do this independent media thing. Had I known what I know now from the beginning, I wouldn't spend a lot of money on a studio. I've got this great fancy studio that's in Midtown Manhattan that I never used. You know why? Because my subscribers say, we don't like you there. We don't want cable news. We want you sitting in your living room. We want to see a live stream where at the end you do karaoke on a Saturday night with your husband and your 3 dogs in front of the fireplace. And that's what they want because they feel like they connect to me. And we want that our comments are up on the screen and that you read them and you respond to them and you talk to us and you give us a voice. And that's why I started, quite frankly, Joanna, as I told you when I saw you late last month, I said, the folks want a voice. And in the beginning, I said, I feel like I'm doing the same thing that I did at CNN, where I was just talking to the viewer. I started a show called Lemon Live at 5 in my living room every day, live at 5 o'clock. It gets the most engagement of anything else, any of the taped interviews, any of the fancy studio shows that I do. And so that's what I'm sticking with.
Yeah, I love the interactivity of it and the fact that you shout people out when they, write a comment and you feel that you're talking to the audience. And that does feel like it's going to be the next iteration of media.
I think so too. And I think it has to be in a way because not being beholden to the powers that be is critical. And only if you have like the economic power and if you have an audience, it's kind of the next and only move in a free press, really. I think it's essential.
But Don, do you feel like when you wake up in the morning, do you ever have days when you're like, I don't want to do it today, and then you have the freedom not to do it? Or do you feel a huge obligation to turn up because you know that people are going to be waiting for you?
Is it fair to say both?
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I don't have kids, or it's like when, I don't want to get up and walk my dogs, but I have to. I don't want to, I don't want to get up in the middle of the night and change the diaper, but I have to. But you love it. So yeah, like I woke up this morning and I said, well, what am I going to do? What's the big news? There's not that much. And then something happens, or I get in front of my camera here and something happens. I just start talking to the subscribers and they give me ideas. And it energizes me. And because I also do a 10 a.m. show that's called Hot Topics. And I'll tell you where I got it from. Wendy Williams. Remember Wendy Williams?
Yeah, of course.
She would sit in the purple chair and just do a sort of, what do you call it? A free, whatever.
Sort of free association.
Free association, and just talk about things that are in the zeitgeist. And it was just going to be to do light things that were not so heavy politically. But it just so happens, when you have a Trump presidency, he takes over every aspect, sports, entertainment, or whatever, he becomes part of it. And so we just I started this show at 10 a.m. to catch people up. And it's just like sitting in a diner, having a cup of coffee. So I do 2 lives every day.
Wow.
But I love it and I get energized by it. But yes, some days do I not want to work? No, but actually, does it feel like work? No, because I'm doing it right now. I'm in a hotel room.
Right.
Which is a freedom that people in legacy media don't understand and don't get, but they're going to have to pretty soon if they're going to be successful and continue on in this business.
How long before Tucker Carlson gets a job in the White House? How quickly can we look forward to that?
I don't know. I don't know if that's actually good for him, because I think it's good for him to be an insider, but yet an outsider. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But look, he has an influence in the White House without even having a role, an official role. By the way, remember, Elon Musk's role is not official. It's like a blue ribbon kind of thing. The whole Doge thing is not really a government thing, but it's sort of a blue ribbon thing, but it is, but kind of, you know what I mean?
Imagine that their day one plan is to defund Planned Parenthood and, public television. Wow. Going after those big whales, boys. Make cervical cancer great again. Good job, gentlemen.
My favorite thing, though, is how it started before it even got started with the H-1B visa things. And people found out, well, you guess what? We need immigrants. Oh, wow.
Oh, wait.
They just want the right brown people, not the ones across the border, but the people who come over on airplanes. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, boy.
Well, Don, I was going to ask you about Rashida Jones, who was the head of MSNBC, stepped down this week. Rachel Maddow is back on every night, having been literally paid $25 million for one show a week on a Monday. Yeah. And obviously someone has woken up at MSNBC and said, we're not paying for that anymore. Let's get her back every night.
Yeah.
Why do you think they let Rachel Maddow just do one night a week when she was their most popular anchor?
Because she was the most popular anchor.
But isn't she only the most popular anchor because she's on every night?
2 things. One, I think she's the most popular anchor because she's really good. And I think that she's very talented. And I think that in many ways, cable news, because of all the cutting, because they know the cost of everything and the value of nothing, in many ways, that they are putting people who are not necessarily anchors in primetime positions. And there's a difference between being a good reporter and a good anchor. I just think Rachel Maddow is great, and that is why she's there. That's why she's successful. And they realized that the network would not be the same without her. So they said she wants one night a week. Plus, I'll come back when there are big stories, and I'll appear more often. If there's when there's an election, I'll do whatever. So I'm sure she'll be on tonight with whatever the breaking news is about Gaza and Israel as we are taping this. So that's why they allowed her to do 1 week, 1 day a week. 5 days a week. Is there a lot of pressure? Absolutely. I did it 2 hours a night. Can you imagine, for 7 years or almost 8 years? It's tough. There's a lot. It's a pressure. $25 million though makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I could feel some pressure for $25 million.
I didn't make $25 million. The money is still there for her, although it's dwindling, and it's probably not there for the new folks. So that's probably why you're seeing a different type of person in those.
What's your prediction for the great role of the American anchor? I mean, it just feels like that, publicly we're learning that they're being paid less for the same job. And as more people go off into independent media, it feels like that once central role is much less relevant than it was.
Look, remember when I think it's akin to radio and television, right? It's this new thing, the television is coming around, and that changed the game. So I think that, there's still going to be older folks and folks who like to get their news from these big screens that are on the wall. But if you guys have kids or young people, when was the last time you saw a kid turn on a television?
Yeah. Oh, they don't even know how. Yeah, they actually don't
turn
know how.
on the nightly evening news or on a cable news show. They don't. They're scrolling through these on their phone. They're on TikTok, which I'm on all the time, which I never thought I would be on. They're on Instagram. They're on Facebook, which is a whole nother thing, right? No, they're not on Facebook. They're on these other platforms, Blue Sky or what have you. They're getting their news from social, and they're getting it in clips. The interesting thing to me is I still get people go, hey, CNN, but I get younger people now go, hey, you're the TikTok guy, you're the YouTube guy, and for me, it is fascinating because, as you said, I believe that audience that I have now is bigger than the audience that I had in traditional television.
Will you be live streaming the inauguration on the weirdest and worst MLK Day since?
So, Sam, you
forever.
have quite smartly hit upon a dilemma that I have right now.
Right.
Because I've been invited by some of the platforms that carry my program to come to cover it, and they've offered me studio space and to facilitate a way for me to be able to do it. Yeah, can I just be honest? It's tough to treat this as normal and then to be in a position to be able to cover it and to see what happened with Morning Joe and Mika. Look, so I'd been saying, look, this is not normal, blah, 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 blah. And then to go down and cover it as if it's just sort of your run-of-the-mill inauguration would be tough. I think my subscribers and my audience would go, well, wait a minute. But also, there's a way that you can cover it if I come down, or I can come down and just cover MLK. Right. Sitting with them with the inauguration running behind me from their facility. So right now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. If I'm actually going to take Spotify or YouTube or Heart or whomever up on their offer to cover it, or if I'm just going to sit in my place in New York City and cover it, say this is, because the mainstream guys are going to be going, there's Melania, she's wearing this. There's this person, blah, 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 blah. This is normal. So I don't know. It's a dilemma. I'm not sure. I don't know. What do you think?
I love the idea of just doing MLK Day with the inauguration playing out in the background. I think that's that's nice and saucy. I like it with a little sauce. So
I wonder what MLK would want you to do. And I think he would want you to cover the incoming administration. I don't think we can turn away here. And one of the things I am interested in, which I wanted to ask you about, because you're down in DC, but the last time Donald Trump was elected, 2016, there was a huge march, the Women's March. There was an enormous amount of resistance to him, none of which we appear to be seeing now. What has changed, Don?
I think people are tired. I also think that it is in large part because of legacy media, just the media in general. Two things. I think that we, and I'm guilty of it as well, or I'm a party to it, normalize this behavior by trying to say, okay, well, I didn't do that. But folks, let's put election deniers on the air. Let's over-index on understanding the MAGA folks. Wasn't that hard to understand. We know what they think. And I think people felt that they had to do this because they were trying to understand, and it wasn't really that hard to understand. So I think it has become normalized because it was our own failure as the media to normalize it. But then also now, if you look at the last election, it is because folks are largely getting their information, young people, and from places where there are no editorial standards or parameters, where you can spout off conspiracy theories, or you can say vaccines don't help people, and no one says that's wrong, that's a lie. And so I think that it's twofold, and it has to do with the media in both ways, traditional media and this new digital streaming space where you don't have to tell the truth and rely on facts, and no one is going to call you on it. And look, also the antitrust of it all, right? The lack of antitrust. Look at pretty soon, if the reports are true, Elon Musk could own two of the biggest social media platforms in the world, TikTok and Twitter, or X. Mark Zuckerberg owns the biggest social media platforms in the world, 3 of them: Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
And don't forget WhatsApp.
Meta, and then WhatsApp. Okay, so all of that. That's a very powerful influence. And remember, with that comes algorithms that they can program and suppress and amplify whatever they want. And so I think that we have been influenced by all of that in the media, and that is why we are where we are. And people think that this is normal, and a lot of folks are just also acquiescing and complying and bending the knee.
I'm sure that you're going to see up there on the podium that actually the battle going on between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg is the fight for TikTok. I mean, it would be an extraordinary thing for Amazon to own because, of course, TikTok shops. It would be an extraordinary thing for Zuckerberg to own. And, of course, now Lina Khan is out of the way. There's much more opportunity for mergers or acquisitions. And he's set up to actually onboard a lot of TikTok creators very quickly on Reels and Instagram.
Well, you've both filled me with horror.
Yeah.
Well, that was not our goal.
Reminder of what is coming. And it definitely, I feel that people are in disarray. They don't really know what to do in this moment. And I think...
Well, they can listen to the Daily Beast podcast, they can read the Daily Beast, and they can listen to Hot Topics at 10 and live at 5. Don Lemon, thrilled to have you. Thank you for joining us, and we will be tracking your progress, and I hope you'll come back on and talk to us again.
I will. Thank you so much. I am big fans of both of yours. I appreciate your work. Joanna and Sam, thank you for inviting me on, and best of luck to you guys.
Thank you. Independent media.
Best of luck to all of us. Best of luck to all of us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. If you have been, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like it, subscribe, comment, and share it with everyone you know so you can argue about everything we're talking about.
And go ahead and keep on sending us those emails, beastpod@thedailybeast.com, or drop us a comment on YouTube. We read them all. Joanna, the people want that beautiful T-shirt that you gave me last week.
I thought of a way that people could get the T-shirt, which is if you can count the number of times I overuse the word extraordinary, you are welcome to a T-shirt. Several people have pointed out on YouTube, both kindly and unkindly, that I do overuse the word extraordinary, so I apologize. Well, I do it.
Don't change a thing, Joanna. That's your word. I talk with my hands. You use the word extraordinary an extraordinary amount of time.
I do. It's quite extraordinary. Anyway, we need to work on that. If you're not a subscriber to the Daily Beast, it's very easy to sign up. Just go to dailybeast.com, and then if you put in a /membership/podcast, voila.
As my muse once said, everybody, please be best.
No, Sam, she didn't say that. She said be beast. She said be beast.
I misheard her.